Hello, this is Bill Lindeman from the Believers Business Center show, and Carrie won't be here tonight, but we have a special guest tonight, Mike Siver, and he's a counselor, and he's got some pretty amazing skills, and we'll be talking about, he's the author of 2 books and a new book coming out. The first book is What Role Did I Play? Well, Volume 1 and Volume 2.
Yes.
And we'll just turn it over to Mike, and Mike, I'm glad to have you here tonight.
Well, thank you.
And can you tell us what you do and how you started going into counseling?
Well, I started going into counseling when I was considering changing professions.
Okay.
And I used to be in the oil fields, working for the oil fields, and as we discussed earlier, that's a young man's game. And because I was at the point where I was no longer a young man, I decided to look for something different. I went back to school and found the human services field, which I liked. At the same time, I was changing my lifestyle because I'm also a recovering addict and alcoholic. And I started to feel comfortable working in that field and talking to new and recovering alcoholics and recovering addicts on how to maintain their sobriety and their freedom from addiction. So that's what my major became, counseling and therapy. And I use a type of therapy or counseling that was founded by William Glasser, and it's called reality therapy. And it's okay to have issues from our past, and we all have them. But today we have to survive and not get arrested and not be in trouble and not start fights or survive today in the world we're working in. And then when that becomes a lifestyle, then we go back and we address the issues we had in the past to try and correct them and come to terms with them. But we have to learn how to exist and live today. And part of that is why I've written the 2 books that I have, and then followed up by the 3rd one. They're called What Role Do I Play? And I'm a big believer in accountability and asking if the wife and the husband or the daughter and mother or father and son or whatever are having an issue, the question I ask them to ask themselves is, what role did you play in that?
Yes.
And there was an example I can give you of a couple I was doing some marriage counseling with, and I won't go into too many details, but he was coming to me how to come to terms with a divorce, because it was going to happen. Told me all the details, some of them not very nice, and in the end I asked him, what role did you play in this happening and your wife doing the things that she did? And he didn't like the question. And today that couple are still married. They have wonderful children. They're a happy couple, and they got that way by asking himself, what role was he playing in their marriage, and not dumping it all on her. So I ask people to ask themselves, what role do I play in my life? What role do I play in making this happen? I didn't get that interview or that job I was looking for. What role did I play in that? And part of that is when I work with, especially with young people, today, perception is reality. There are so many, there are so many jobs out there and millions of people applying for those jobs because of the economy and employment the way it is today. So when you go to an interview or go to apply for a job, what perception do you play when you walk in that door? Are you because you want to be you, or do you want that job? And are your pants down around your butt? Is your hair combed? Are your teeth brushed? Does your breath smell? Do you have on iron clothes or just wrinkled up old clothes? The interviewer has an opportunity to look at a lot of people. Why would they pick you? And we talk like that to the kids, to the families, to the people, that, especially young people looking for work. Unemployment as high as it is today. I give talks to unemployed people about, you have to make an impression if you want to work, if you don't want to work, then you just turn up any way you want to.
Sure.
It doesn't matter because you're not going to get the job. But if you want the job and you have the skills, you need to present yourself in a package that they want to take on. They want to hire you. The first book I wrote was How Our Children Learn. And it has stories in it like sponge. Children are like sponges. We've all heard that. They soak up everything.
Yes, that's right.
But to take that a step further, what you have to remember is that a sponge will keep absorbing whatever liquid it's in or the environment that it's in, and when it's full, the same stuff starts to come back out. So if your sponge is going to absorb dirty water, when it's full of dirty water, only dirty water is going to come out. When a child is in an environment that's not healthy and is full of bias and bigotry and racism or whatever the negative environment it's in, when that child gets enough of that environment in them as they grow and become middle teens and grow up, that's what's going to come out. So they're going to be a product of their environment. And I don't think everybody sort of knows that.
Yes.
But to take it really serious, a sponge will absorb, a child will absorb, an infant will absorb whatever environment it's in. If mom and dad fight, then when they get older, they say they're going to fight. But I like to take it a step further. If a child sees his father hitting his mother, he's continually learning that that's what they do. Now they say, well, you have a choice. You're not going to be a mother, a wife beater when you grow up. Well, as that child, and we'll say a boy, grows up, he says, I'm not going to act like that. My dad hurt my mom. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to be like that. You know what? And a lot of them don't become that way. But what's happened is the sponge has absorbed all the triggers and all the information. When they grow up and as they're dating, they're nice people. The men are nice. And in my counseling practice, sometimes I hear from the women, well, he was really nice while we were dating. He was friendly and he was helpful and he was courteous and respectful. But when we got married, it changed.
Yes.
He changed. Something happened. Well, I believe what happens is a boy sees his dad as a man and a husband and a father. And he will not act like that until he becomes a husband.
Okay.
As he's growing up, he's a boyfriend and he's a fiancé.
Okay.
But he's not a husband yet. And he understands that husbands can hit wives. Boyfriends don't. Fiancés don't. But husbands do. And all of a sudden he's now a husband, so all that comes back. The other thing he learns is that seeing his mother take it, and if they stay in the marriage, and a lot of them do, that his understanding of women is when they become a wife, they will take the abuse, because my mother did. And that's taking it pretty deep and pretty heavy, but that's what can happen, and that's why I wrote the article on sponge, because it takes it to a whole new level. I wrote an article on the word try. Every one of us, including yourself, was told when we were young, just try it, you might like it.
Sure.
I don't like asparagus, I don't like beans, I don't like peas. Just try it, you might like it. Well, you try it, and even though you might like it, you're not going to want it. You're going to say, I don't like it, because why give in? I said I'm not going to eat them, so I'm not going to eat them even if I love them. Well, you can learn, if you're not taught correctly by your parents, you can learn to try and not do it, and that be accepted, because your parents said it's okay as long as you tried. If you gave it everything you could do and you tried, then we can say, okay, you don't have to do it because at least you tried. Now, unless the parents break that mold as the child grows into middle teens and up into the teenage years and maybe into adulthood, a lot of people still get confused when they're told, you know, how come you haven't completed that yet? Well, I tried and I wasn't able to do it. And then all of a sudden the boss says, well, you know, we're going to hire somebody who's going to do it and not try. So you're fired.
Wow.
Now that's an extreme, but it happens. And the person becomes upset and annoyed. You know, I try everything I can. I try the best I can, and they still don't accept it. Why don't they accept that? It's because if you check some of the Webster dictionaries, or the dictionaries around the world, Oxford and Webster, you will find that about half of them, in their description of try, which is a long descriptions, it says in there, try alludes to failure. Now, in our minds, we can accept try as a failure, and we wonder why we have trouble in life. I tried to stop smoking. I tried to keep my marriage together. I tried to lose weight. I tried to stop drinking. And, well, I just can't do it. So you quit. And I think when we say we tried, or tried as past tense, it becomes finite. So people try and quit. I've quit trying because I can't stop smoking. I can't lose weight, so I quit trying. That becomes a behavior. And I worked for a long time working on figuring out words to replace the word try. Now the word try is appropriate in a lot of places. When you try a case in a law court, there's a lot of appropriate uses for the word try. But I couldn't find a word to replace the word try. I came up with 3 words. Work on it. So if I'm continually working on stopping smoking, then I haven't quit. I haven't given up. So I continue to work on it. If I'm working on my relationship, that means I'm still trying. I haven't quit. So you're never going to get rid of the word try, and we never will, because it's ingrained. And I've worked really hard to not say the word. I can't stop. I try to quit saying try, and I can't. So I say work on it as often as I can. Those are some of the articles I've written in the first book, in volume 1.
Fascinating. Wow.
And there are some other articles in there that are I think, just as fulfilling for adults as well as young people. The second book that I wrote was volume 2. It's Life Skills for Discussion. One of the articles in there is guilty by accusation. And so many times kids accuse people, even adults, start rumors about people. Next thing it gets back to you, and people, oh, did you do that, or did you say that? And you've been accused of something you cannot defend. So the article, the story in there, it just is a short, they're all 2-page stories, and it's a short story open for discussion. So if a church group or a family wants to sit down and talk about rumors and accusations to try and help their kids not do that, then that's some story to read. And it's just a topic for discussion, or in a Boy Scout group, or a Girl Scout group, or any kind of youth group, or adults. There's 52 stories in here, one for every day of the week. And if you read the story and then discuss it, and read the story and discuss it, I think it helps you have a different perspective on life, helps you look at things not to do, not to become part of. Because today, with the economy the way it is, I think a lot of people are surviving and living in misery. And misery loves company. So if I can start a rumor or start something, and then I've got something to talk about, I don't think it's intentional. I don't think people are malicious, but it happens. And I believe we have to try and raise ourselves to a higher level. And that's partly what I do. That's what I like to do.
Well, these, Mike, these seem to be very valuable books, and I think they deserve to be bestsellers.
Well, I hope they are.
They should be. You did say 52, you meant 52 weeks in a year.
Yes, I'm not sure what I said, but 52.
You said days in a week. Yes.
Oh, sorry. Well, 52 topics in here. They're one for every week.
That's great. And it gives you time to think about them and go over them. I think it's a wonderful book, and I've heard you talk about some of your teaching, and it's really impressive. I mean, so what role did I play? Did that come from somewhere else, or did you come up with that
I came up with
phrase?
that. My counseling and my coaching that I do has always been described as unorthodox.
Okay, all right,
And
Okay.
I'm non-traditional.
all right.
I like confronting, I like confrontation. Not that I'm going to try and make my clients upset with me,
Yeah.
because that doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah,
But I'm not too concerned about asking them to be accountable
okay,
when they come to me for issues. Because there's always two sides to every story,
yeah,
and somewhere in the middle is usually the truth.
right, right.
And I try to get to that middle ground, middle ground. And then the third book that I've just finished, and it's just in the process now of being printed, is called Why Do I Behave the Way I Do, which is a follow-up on these.
Okay,
And that will be out probably within a month or so. And it talks, some of the stories from volume 2, volume 1 are in there, a couple of them, but there's some new stories in there about, one is a behavior versus belief, or belief versus behavior. And if you grow up to believe something as you're growing up and it's worked for you, that becomes a behavior.
okay, yeah,
And until you get in enough trouble or find out that behavior is not working, and now you start to believe that behavior is getting me in trouble, now your new belief becomes a new behavior. So we have behavior becomes belief, and then belief becomes behavior.
yeah,
And that's one of the stories, and there's several more different ones in there that are open for discussion, that create thought, that have you address yourself, and it asks you, why do I behave the way I do?
Well, the title of those first two books, What Role Did I Play? That tells me that you're asking people to take responsibility
Yes.
for their actions.
Well, I've always been held accountable for my actions.
Yeah,
A lot of times I wish I hadn't been, and I thought, well, if I'm going to hold other people accountable and be honest about and have some integrity, that I need to hold them accountable, because my counseling has to be result-orientated. And it's one thing to go in and have a laid-out program. Okay, well, you're here for anger management, or we're going to do some marriage counseling. We talk about this, we talk about that, we talk about that. Okay, your hour's up, go home. I never liked that.
okay,
I don't agree with that. If I'm in the middle of a conversation that's about to open up some doors, we might go for 2 hours. I started a nonprofit organization to provide counseling and services to low-income people and people that sometimes can't afford it at all, because a common thing is when a young person gets a DUI, say, or maybe 2 of them, if he's unfortunate, that they're going to lose their driver's license.
right,
And most of them lose their driver's license, they lose their jobs.
sure,
So now we have somebody who the court says, you've got to go through counseling, you've got to pay your court costs, you got to pay your probation fees, you got to pay all these costs, and you don't have a job. So we started a nonprofit organization to help offset that stuff. And in doing that, we want to provide the best counseling service we can. So myself and another counselor that works with me, we decided that, okay, we're going to charge next to nothing. We have some grants and some donations. We work a lot on donations. That helps us provide counseling to families that don't have any income, that find themselves involved with the law or the legal system. I do private work, but most of the work is through the court systems. And that's where most of our clients come from.
Do you do any presentations in schools?
I do. We have a lot of fun. We talk about, I do high element and low element activities or games that I play that generate issues within the kids in schools that then produces a behavior. And then we sit down and talk about it. And there's a lot of different games, little things you can do that open up discussion.
You described one of those a while back, and I was really impressed with it. I can see that you've got a unique presentation, and I think it's very valuable what you're doing, and I really hope that you achieve the success you should have, because that's what I like is somebody who comes up with something new. You know, you're just not satisfied with what you see, what isn't working.
Well, part of it is being aware of what's going on. I'll give you another example. I did a corporation team building. They were opening up a new department. So they brought their team. It was like 30 new staff members in there, from managers on down. And to break the ice and to get them to start talking and deal with what I wanted to have done, I asked them to line up across the room, the back of the room, without talking, by birth date, month, and year, which is an effort for adults. If you watch kids, first thing you do is grab a piece of paper. I mean, the kids got this stuff figured out.
Sure.
The kids run away and they grab a piece of paper and they walk in front of each other and they write down their birth dates and then they line everybody up and they're done. Adults, they're hard. So the group finally got it done. Nobody talked. And then when they all lined up, I asked them, are you sure you're in the right order and this is where you want to be? Which is fine, because it's your choice.
Right.
They started in January, was off to the left, because I didn't tell them where January had to be. I said, just line up according to birth dates. Then with January, went through all down to December. We got to December, and the last girl on the end said January. And she was right in one sense.
Sure.
But wrong according to the group. The team had got together and said, quietly, with no talking, that January is over here. But because nobody told her that January had to be there, she followed December, which was correct, but put herself out. And my only question to her was, your team said January's here, you said January's there, and you were correct. Is that how you are in your workplace? Are you different than everybody else? Are you one man out? And I didn't challenge her, I just asked her a question. She got really mad and ran out of the room.
Wow.
And her bosses had to go get her. And then after, it was a shame because I don't know what happened after that, but all her co-workers said that's how she is.
Wow.
And all it did was a game.
It's powerful. It's powerful.
And it's powerful stuff, but you have to be aware of what's happening around you. And I do those kind of games with a lot of people, school groups, high school, football teams. Get a football team to work together and communicate. There's lots of games you can do, lots of activities that are designed to generate a problem. But it's not a problem that's going to hurt anybody. It's a problem that they have to resolve. So the game generates communication skills, problem-solving skills, and teamwork. And all you have to do is observe it. And I like to do those kind of games. Corporations, corporates, whatever, schools, church groups. So that's basically what I do in a nutshell. I'm expanding into the jails now, and we're going to see where that goes.
Well, that seems to be an area that really needs your expertise.
Well, I do a specific thing for the jail system because I do a domestic violence and batterer program that I created in Van Buren County that's been accepted by the court systems. So I use that a lot. There are some in all the other counties as well. And looks like I'm going to try and take that into the jail system and work with the inmates.
Yeah, if the authorities like what you're doing, it's a really good sign, you know.
Well, I'm getting a lot of referrals and feedback, and most of it's positive, because you're always going to rub somebody the wrong way. You can't help doing that, but we just keep going one day at a time, one step at a time. And we both, my other counselor and myself, are both recovering people. So we have a relationship with the people we get in there, and that helps ease the pain of counseling to some of them.
Sure, you have a first-hand knowledge of the pain of trying to change your life.
And there's a lot of issues that a lot of times only counselors that have been there can address, because they have been there, they felt it, and they understand why you would make such a irrational decision, but in your mind sounds rational.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's fun to do. I enjoy doing that.
Well, I know you can get your books at the Believers Business Center.
Yes, yeah, they are
That's
available.
where to go, believersbc.com. And I know your books are there, and you can get them. What Role Did I Play, Volumes 1 and 2. And the new book that's coming out is called...
Why Do I Behave the Way I Do?
Yeah, Why Do I Behave the Way I Do? You know, as you talk to me, I'm thinking to myself, God, it would have been great if we would have had somebody like you in school, especially in grammar school, early years. You know, not to mention at home, but just to have something like that in the schools. You know, I don't recall anything like that as powerful as what you're talking about.
Well, it's non-threatening.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
And the kids actually get something out of it, and they can have fun doing it.
Well, that's it. You're playing games, and you're having fun, and you're learning. And that's a wonderful thing. I mean, I really hope that you can expand this, especially in the court system, you know, because these are kids that really need it, you know.
Well, I'm going to be at Believers over the next 2 months doing her 4-Step Up program.
Well, I'm going to be a part of that program, so...
Well, maybe we'll be working together.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
But I'll be there, I don't know how many times she's got me scheduled for, so I'll be over there too.
Yeah, and your books are available there.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
And she keeps a stock of my books, and they're selling slowly, and that's good. So it's one day at a time.
So these books come after you retired, or, I mean, you stopped doing this at one point?
Yeah, I'm old enough now to retire and get my Social Security.
Sure.
But I wrote the books just around that same time.
I see, okay.
It was an accumulation of years of thought and what I was doing in counseling, and I used to write an article for the newspaper
Okay.
every week, and somebody said, well, why don't you put them in a book? So I did, and that's why the first book came up, or Volume 2 came about. Then Volume 1, I was writing that all the time.
Well, that's right. When I did see you, hear you talk, and you did mention that you were doing a column. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to write a self-help column.
Yeah.
Every week, and it come out, and it generated a lot of feedback too, and I was excited about that. So that's how it all started, and now I like to write. I like to write a lot, and I also do a writing class to the young people, some young people who want to start writing. You don't know where to start. And we'll take their idea and we'll start working with that, and we'll put it into a format that they can expand on. And I enjoy doing that as well.
Well, that's great. All I can say is, you know, the Believers Business Center is a good place to start if you want to change your life, if you want to learn how to be successful. This is the best place that I've ever seen for learning new skills. And I really look forward to this program that's starting in September. It's called the 4 Steps Up program, I believe.
Yeah, 4-Step Up program.
Yeah, it's months long, or a month and a half, 6 weeks, I believe.
Yep. And it's to help young people, or anybody unemployed, to seek employment, and it teaches a lot about researching jobs and availability and stuff. And it's a good program, and I guess the big thing I like about it the most is it's Christian-based.
Right, it is.
And I love it that it's Christian-based.
Right. Well, I'm really excited about it, and all I can say is I advise people to buy your books and read them, and come to the Believers Business Center and learn more about them. So I think we had a terrific show today. And thanks, Mike Siver. That's S-I-V-E-R. Mike Siver.
Siver, but that's okay.
Siver, I'm sorry. That's great. It's wonderful. So thanks for coming.
All right, thank you very much for having me.
We'll see you on Believers Business Center show next week at this time.
All right.
So good night.
Thank you.